long as a white woman could buy from a white pharmacist, it's all cool, right? But as soon as you start hanging around with these Negroes, or these Chinese people, or whoever else you're hanging out with that's not white, right, to get your stuff, because the white drugs of choice are always alcohol and tobacco, they're two real killers. Whereas all those other nefarious dark-skinned cultures that are trying to subvert us with things that don't kill you nearly as much, like cannabis and opium. And cop, actually. Now the Somalians are being rounded up in Canada, slowly but surely, because they all use cop, AAT, right? And so I think cannabis is harm reduction. The term we use, harm reduction, though, is really a bad one, because it's talking about the harms that we're reducing are created by prohibition. They're not created by the drugs. So when we, in common parlance, talk about harm reduction, what we're really saying is the harm from the prohibition we're trying to reduce, not the harm from the drugs. The drugs themselves in a legal open environment are extremely safe, right? The biggest drugs that are hazardous, as we all know, are prescription drugs. And because those are unknown in their effect on you. At least if you have tobacco or alcohol, you know, you have a fairly cognizant idea you're going to hurt yourself. But people, trustingly, are getting doctors giving them, say, hey, this is safe, FDA approved, it's DEA approved, it's Health Canada approved. Take these things, these are harmless, except for, but that's not true at all. Most antidepressants are completely experimental. They have no idea what those things do to you, right? You come in, you say you're depressed, the doctor's got half an hour to decide what he's going to do with you, what's going to give you some relief, so he writes you a prescription. For him to actually go into your own personal problems and find out where you're at and why you're, feeling weak and vulnerable and all these things, that takes almost a lifetime to get to know. And he's got half an hour to come to some quick decision that you're going to be satisfied with. Here's a prescription, give yourself some drugs, right? And we've had...
You got like 3 minutes to...
So, if you want to read more about my case, go to noextradition.net. I publish Cannabis Culture magazine. It comes out every 2 months. I love this magazine. My wife and I pour our life into it. I hope you'll pick it up and read it. We have a streaming video. It used to be really big in its time. Pop TV. Now with YouTube, of course, we're just one little node into the internet, amongst many. But pt6.wmv is where we have over 3,500 videos we've made over the last 8 years, all about pot. My extradition, actually it looks like the Canadian government is not going to be helpful at all. They want to extradite me, so they're going to refuse to cooperate with even the Americans who want to make a deal. And so I'm going to have an extradition hearing probably at the end of this year, where I will be facing like 30 years minimum. Now remember, they call me the biggest drug trafficker of all time in Canada, and producer of 1.1 million pounds of weed, so it's not going to be in the low end of things. People say, oh, you could get this. I'm like, hold on. They're calling me the biggest marijuana producer in the history of the U.S. criminal justice system. Does that sound to you like the low end of jail? Right? And they send people to jail for hundreds of years. So I'm curious at the length of the number. But like I say, anything over 12 years is a death sentence. The average person dies in a U.S. prison at age 65. And I'm 50 now. So, anything over 12, 15 years, that's a death sentence. But I'm amused because the American justice system thinks they own your next 5 or 6 reincarnations, so they send you to 150 years in jail. Just in case you live with that's too long. Wow, that's weird. 150 years in jail. Like that's like not even we punish you for we're sadists too. So yeah.
Is there anything we can do to help the extradition?
Yes, you can. Now here's the thing. The most important thing is an election coming up. And if you have a Conservative member of Parliament, you're going to get a pamphlet in the next few days. It's actually against promoting this bill C-26. It's a very, very bad bill that's going to punish pot people a lot. But it will punish all drug users. But will it expect it? Yes. In fact, that's what's going out. And what they're doing is they're spending $64 million on a propaganda campaign. All the Conservative members of Parliament are sending these out to all their writing on taxpayer money. It costs $2.8 million to send those all out. And it's all softening the ground for mandatory minimums for way more people in jail. They'll need to build more jails. And we're going towards a U.S. drug war system. Now, just to let you know, we only imprison 110 people out of every 100,000 people in the population. The United States imprisons 746 people for every 100,000 people in the population. Almost 7 times larger by capita. Just to give you an example of numbers, they have 2.25 million people in prison. We have 34,000 people in prison. Now they have almost 10 times more people than us, but they have 74 times more prisoners than us. So it's not just like, oh, we're getting the scale. No, they really have the prison planet going on there. Since the 1980s, they have put millions and millions of people in jail for drugs. And they continue to house about 800 to 900,000 people who are there in one way or another for their drug relationships, growing, selling, conspiracy, running a drug house or whatever. 900,000 people every year is the prison population in the United States of drugs. They want to emulate that here because it's been very successful. successfully get away with scapegoating drug use is you can blame all of society's ills on the drug user, but not prohibition. Because if we think simply and clearly without any kind of cloudiness about prohibition of alcohol, we realize, gee, that's where all Al Capone and all those guys started. There were no known armed robbery gangs before them, not even a bank. You know, you had the guy going with a bank maybe in the Old West, but that was a very futile thing. Typically what you never see in those movies is that since everybody's local money was put in that bank, if they heard there was a robbery, everybody had a gun, they would shoot you dead before you got out of town. There was no fucking way you're robbing this bank with all our money in it. Right? So that's what you don't see in those Old West movies. People shot bank robbers dead. They did not wait for a sheriff. They went and called their own money back. So the advent of modern-day bankruptcy, machine guns, and organized gangs started explicitly and exclusively with alcohol prohibition. And it ended in 1933. But the problem is there were over 40,000 men on the U.S. government's payroll for alcohol prohibition, and they needed to be funneled into a new line of work. And that's why marijuana prohibition was brought about 3 years later. And interestingly enough, they needed a constitutional amendment to make alcohol prohibition legal, but they had changed the laws to make it so that marijuana became an Interstate Commerce Act violation, so they did not need to change the Constitution to ban marijuana. And that is the first thing that was ever banned by the U.S. federal government without a constitutional amendment. There's no prohibition in the U.S. Constitution for the federal government to ban anything. So there's all sorts of sneaky things. Read Jack Farrar's Emperor Has No Clothes. It's a great book. It's got what got me into this movement 19 years ago, and I don't regret a moment, even though I may never see some of you ever again.
Well, actually, we will report more.
It only counts in the first 5 seconds. Thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to talking to you later out.
Just a couple of things. You will see him again here at 4:20, if not at another time. We're about to head. That's why we've got to cut it short. A quick apology to everybody online for being late. Sorry about that, and to the rest of you for being patient. Sorry, it's a little bit short. One final thank you